Moses stood on the edge of the churning Red Sea, his heart heavy with immense responsibility. Behind him, the thunderous sound of Egyptian chariots grew louder, signaling the approach of certain doom. The people of Israel cried out in terror, their eyes wide with the fear of capture. Moses looked toward the horizon, feeling the weight of thousands of lives resting upon his shoulders. He knew that only a miracle from the Almighty could save them from this desperate situation. With unwavering faith, Moses stepped forward, his gaze fixed firmly on the vast, turbulent waters ahead. He raised his weathered staff high toward the heavens, a silent prayer echoing in his soul. Suddenly, a powerful wind began to howl, sweeping across the surface of the deep blue sea. The waves roared in protest as the water began to churn and shift with divine force. Slowly, miraculously, the sea began to part, revealing a path of dry land beneath. The Israelites watched in stunned silence as the towering walls of water stood firm on either side. Moses turned to his people, his voice steady and strong, urging them to move forward now. They stepped onto the seabed, their feet touching the ground that had been hidden for ages. Moses guided them through the corridor of water, his presence a beacon of hope and courage. The walls of water shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting the light of the setting sun above. Each step taken by the people was a step away from the chains of their past. The Egyptian army halted at the shore, blinded by the sheer scale of the impossible sight. Moses continued to lead, ensuring every man, woman, and child reached the safety of the shore. The journey was arduous, but the promise of freedom propelled them forward through the dark night. As the last of the people emerged, they looked back at the path that saved them. The waters began to collapse, sealing the path and ending the threat of their former masters. Safe on the other side, the people rejoiced, their songs of gratitude rising to the stars. Moses stood tall, knowing this moment was merely the beginning of their long, sacred journey. They were no longer slaves, but a nation walking toward the hope of the Promised Land. True liberty had finally arrived, granted by faith and the courage of their devoted leader. The vast desert stretched out before them, a blank canvas for their new, free lives. They walked with purpose, leaving behind the echoes of Egypt and the memory of their chains. Moses looked ahead, his heart filled with peace, ready to guide them toward their destiny. The wind whispered of new beginnings, carrying the promise of a future filled with light. Together, they marched into the unknown, united by the miracle they had witnessed that day. The red sands beneath their feet felt like a foundation for a new, righteous society. Every child looked up to Moses, seeing in him the strength of 1,000 generations. The sky above turned a deep indigo, watching over the travelers in the quiet night. They rested briefly, sharing stories of the sea that had opened to grant them life. The memory of the parting waters would be passed down through the ages to come. It was a testament to the power of belief and the endurance of the human spirit. Moses sat by the fire, reflecting on the path they had traveled to reach freedom. He knew the road ahead would be difficult, but he was prepared for the challenge. The Promised Land was a distant dream, yet it felt closer than it ever had. Their unity was their greatest strength, forged in the fires of adversity and hope. The morning sun rose, casting a golden glow over the vast, endless desert landscape ahead. They rose as one, ready to continue the trek toward their ultimate sacred home. Moses led the way, his staff serving as a symbol of their newfound, lasting independence. The horizon beckoned them, promising a land flowing with milk, honey, and divine grace. They moved with a rhythm born of freedom, leaving the past buried in the sea. The desert air was crisp, filled with the scent of a future yet to unfold. Each day brought them closer to the home they had prayed for in their captivity. They learned to trust in the journey, finding strength in the silence of the dunes. Moses taught them the laws of life, preparing them for the responsibilities of their freedom. They became a people defined not by their past, but by their shared, bright future. The trials they faced only served to deepen their commitment to their collective noble goal. They walked through the heat, supported by the promise that they were never truly alone. The Promised Land was more than a place. It was a state of being free. Moses felt the weight of the journey lift, replaced by a profound, quiet, inner joy. They were a nation reborn, walking toward the light of a new and better day. The legacy of the sea would forever bind them to their faith and their leader. They marched on, their spirits soaring like eagles above the vast, golden, shifting sands. The path was clear, and their hearts were finally open to the grace of heaven. Moses smiled, knowing they had finally found the path to their true, eternal home. The story of their liberation would echo through eternity as a beacon of hope forever.